So it's our accommodation and living in Ireland webinar. So you're very welcome to join us today. So my name is Megan Yates and I am the CAO recruitment lead here in TU Dublin. So I look after all of our undergraduate programs and I'm joined today by my two colleagues from the accommodation office, Pauline Mulvaney and Patricia Mulligan. And in the background as well, we have members from our admissions and recruitment team who will be here to answer any of your burning questions. So the format for today is we're going to start with an introduction to TU Dublin. Then I will hand over to my colleagues in accommodation who are going to give you all some very insightful information about how to find accommodation in Ireland. And then later on in the webinar, we're going to open the chat function. So for the moment, the chat function is closed. So we just ask that you keep your questions in mind until later on, because they may already be answered as we go through the webinar, but we will open them for Q&A later in the presentation. So an introduction to TU Dublin. So who we are, we're the first technological university in Ireland. We are also Ireland's largest university. And we cater for all levels from apprenticeship, so at a QQI level 6 in Ireland, right up to PhD. So we have a wide variety of courses across many disciplines, so there's something to suit everyone. You can see there from some of our statistics, we're just shy of 30,000 students with 138 nationalities, so we're very multicultural here in TU Dublin, and we're based across 5 locations. So that's very important for you to note, especially as we're talking about accommodation today. While all of our locations are Dublin based, they are in different regions in Dublin. So you do want to keep that in mind when you're searching for accommodation, and the girls will cover that later on. So our locations then across Dublin are, we have our Ainger Street campus, which is city centre based, which mostly houses the business disciplines. So anybody thinking of completing a business course will most likely be based out of Ainger Street. We then have our Blanchardstown campus, which is on the suburbs of Dublin outside of the city centre, which has multidisciplines there. Bolton Street then is traditionally most known for our engineering and our built environment programs. That is also in the city centre. So it is accessible from Ainger Street as well by the Lewis, which is our light tram connection. And it is very central, so very easily connected. We also have then 2 more campuses. So Grange Gorman, that's our newest campus, and it's our state-of-the-art campus right in the heart of Dublin. It's about a 7-minute walk to Bolton Street. So students who study on Bolton Street also come up to the Grange Gorman campus to use the student facilities there. And it's still in development. We still have new buildings being built on site, and we're just shortly due to open our new academic hub and library on the Grange Gorman campus. So for any of you coming soon, you'll get the use of those fabulous facilities. And then our Tala campus is also out on the suburbs of Dublin, so outside the city centre, but again, highly connected by public transport means such as the Lewis, the light rail and the bus connections. So just keep that in mind as you're making your choice. And also keep in mind that similar programs are delivered across our 5 different campuses. So you can keep that in mind if you have a preference for the campus location first, or you have a preference for the course that you're coming to study. So that's our locations, and then our disciplines that we offer. We have 12 different disciplines across TU Dublin, and our courses all sit within these. So you can see them listed there. We've architecture and built environment. We have our business disciplines, our computing, data and mathematics, our creative arts, design and media, our culinary, hospitality and tourism, engineering, law, languages, music and drama, science and health, social science and education, and sports and leisure. So there really is something for everybody there. And you can have a look at all the different courses on our website if you haven't already made your mind up. So at this point now, that's a quick oversight and introduction to TU Dublin. The other thing I'll mention as well is while we have the 5 locations, your student card will get you access to all of the campuses. So if you are studying in Grange Gorman and you want to use the library facilities in Ainger Street or Tala or Blanchardstown, you're more than welcome to use them, or the gym or the student support services in any of the campuses. So that's also an option if you're living closer to one than the one you're studying in. So at this point now, I'd like to hand over to my colleague there, Pauline, and she is going to give you an insight into all of our accommodation options and living in Ireland. So over to you, Pauline.
Thanks, Megan. Welcome, everybody. So in Ireland, we have a traditional greeting and it's Céad Míle Fáilte, and it means 100,000 welcomes in our own native Irish language. So it reflects our warmth and our hospitality, and we want to extend that same welcome to you as you prepare to join the TU Dublin community. So as Megan said, my name is Pauline Mulvaney and I manage the student accommodation service alongside my colleague Patricia Mulligan, who will give you a little wave. And we're here to support you in your accommodation search. So we provide direct support for 2 of the 3 main types of accommodation, but we'll discuss all of that in detail as we move through the presentation. So moving to a new country is a really exciting adventure, but we know that securing accommodation can be one of the biggest challenges for international students. So that's why we've put this webinar together. We want to make sure that you have all the information, tools, and support to find your home away from home. So what can you expect in the session? So we're going to cover the different accommodation options, how to find and secure housing. We'll touch on budgeting and cost of living in Ireland, commuting and Dublin life. And as Megan said, we'll have a Q&A at the end. So the 3 main types of accommodation. So this is a key part of your experience in living in Dublin. So the 3 main types of housing available are living with an owner-occupier, commonly referred to as digs accommodation. So this is renting a room in a private house where the landlord or owner usually lives. It is one of the more affordable accommodation options, and in most cases the bills are included and it's a really homely environment. However, there's typically house rules in this situation. The second one is purpose-built student accommodation. So these are private student-only residences with modern facilities, social spaces, and having inclusive rents in terms of heating and Wi-Fi and things like that. They're highly regulated, they can be booked in advance, and they offer a really secure student-friendly environment for you to live and study. They are the most convenient option. However, they are a premium product with the premium price attached. Again, I'll cover the costs as we move through the presentation. And the third one then is private rented accommodation. So this is where you rent a room or apartment or a house from a private landlord. It does offer the most independence. However, the costs are typically higher and they usually involve longer lease commitments, and it's typically 12 months. It's a competitive market in Dublin, so you will need to budget carefully for this and watch out for scams. So let's look at the different options in more detail, and we'll help you decide which of these works best for you and your individual situation. Okay, so living with an owner-occupier, you'll hear it referred to as digs. So this means renting a room in the house where the landlord also resides. So the benefits are affordable rent. It is typically the most budget-friendly option in terms of accommodation. The bills are included. So the adverts on studentpad specifically will say what's included in terms of electricity, heating, and things like that. The rooms are furnished, so there's no need for you to arrive here and to start to purchase big ticket items like beds or bedding and things like that. In terms of a cultural experience, it's a great way to integrate into life here in Ireland. And if English is not your first language, you'll also improve your English skills within the house. And then security and support. So like living with the family, they're going to have lots of local information for you. So it works out really well in respect of that. So the things to consider. So you are living in somebody's home, so you can expect some house rules. So they usually include things like visitor policies. They may not want overnight guests, or they may have times where they don't want other people in their home. The shared space usage and noise levels. But it's really important to discuss expectations with the homeowner before moving in to avoid any misunderstandings. Meals and facilities. So some people will provide meals, again, that will be included in the advert, and others you'll have the opportunity to prepare your own food. You can clarify any meal expectations beforehand, and this is especially if you have any dietary requirements. Check if you have access to laundry facilities and shared areas like the living room or garden. It tends to be shorter terms in terms of leases. So typically it operates under an agreement rather than a tenant lease. And we do provide sample host agreements to you as students and also to the hosts. And we highly recommend their use. They can be adjusted for your own individual situation within the home. And it kind of clarifies rules like house rules, notice periods and expectations. And then always agree on the notice periods, deposits and the refund of your deposits and any specific considerations in writing before moving in. And in terms of privacy and personal space, then some people will treat you as an independent tenant living in their home, while others it will be a more homely environment and you'll be invited to family dinners and things like that. It's important to consider whether you're comfortable sharing common spaces and living in this more structured setting. Now, so one of the key resources for the digs accommodation and PBSAs is our studentpad platform. So what is it? It's a dedicated and free to use accommodation platform for TU Dublin students. It lists accommodation options, including private rentals, a small number of private rentals, owner-occupied rooms, and some PBSA rooms in there as well. And it will allow you to filter your search based on campus, location, and accommodation type. So why would you use studentpad? So screened listings. So Patricia and I do screen all listings on the studentpad platform. However, we still want you to exercise caution. There's no guarantee that with the accommodation. So always verify the accommodation details before committing. You can search by campus. So we've talked about the 5 different locations. So you can search by campus and find accommodation close to your TU Dublin location. There's contact information for hosts and landlords included within the ad. You can also map and hot list. So I'm going to stop sharing and I am going to take you to the studentpad platform. One sec now, where am I? There I am. Now, I'll just give that 1 minute to come up. If somebody can let me know when it's clearly visible, that would be great.
I can see.
Can you see, Patricia?
Pad. Yeah, I can see studentpad. You're not quite in it yet, but
no, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Patricia. So this is the TU Dublin studentpad platform. So if as a new account, you create your account here. However, I have one. I'm just going to log in here very quickly and search for accommodation. Okay, great. So this is the platform itself and the main page. Go to this one. So you'll see search, my studentpad. There's some housing advice. There's some information on local areas. There's a message board in there as well. There's a section specifically for landlords, and then there's information there in how to contact us. Okay. So the first thing is, I'm just going to take you through this. So it's going to list all of the areas in Dublin. So you can filter by area. You can also filter by property size. So that's the total number of bedrooms within the accommodation. You can filter by living arrangement. So resident, landlord, host, family versus shared whole property. You can filter by campus. So Blanchardstown, Tala and City campus are included. If you're coming with a friend and you would both like to live in the same property, there's the option to filter here for 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms, etc. Available from, it'll give you the months. So if you're arriving in, let's just say August, you can filter for that, and then also minimum and maximum rents there as well. So I am going to choose host resident, host family, and I'll pick Tala. And you'll see here that this has brought down the number considerably. So there's 104 rooms currently listed on the platform with those parameters at the minute. Okay, so this is going to return a search list. However, we recommend that you filter down further from here based on your own individual situation. So you'll see there's a number of different filters we can put on there for today. We're just going to select male. And we're going to select rent includes 7-day accommodation. So as an international student, you're going to require 7-day accommodation, and then just apply those filters and you'll see the number drops again because it's giving a filtered search result. So at the moment, there are 23 properties with 43 rooms. The adverts are listed here, and you can also use the map function here. And the map function can be really useful. So you'll see over here is the Blanchardstown campus, our city campus will be in here. And then I'll just go in. Now, where's Tala gone? Oh, there we go. So here's Tala over here. And as you see, we can go in and here's the campus. And it'll list the accommodations here. You can just click on them from there. Now, remember, we're in term time here, so we'll have much more accommodation coming back available in June, July, and August. But I find the map feature to be really useful. Okay, what will we have a look at? Okay, so I'm just going to select this. So you can just click on any ad, and it's going to open up the full advert for you there. So this is Glenview. The rent includes your internet and 7-day accommodation. You'll see here that most of the ads will have really detailed pictures, so you're able to, get a good overview of what the property is like before you make your inquiries. This is a really standard Irish home, really nicely finished. It looks really comfortable. The contact information for the landlord is here. If you click on the click to show contact info, it'll give you all of the information there. So this home is in South County Dublin, 4 beds in total, and they're letting 1 room. And they're looking for a security deposit of 500 per person. And then it'll just give a description of the home and then the facilities. So you can just click on all of these and it'll open up the information. So in terms of shared facilities, bicycle storage, shower, television, broadband, dishwasher, fridge, freezer, garden, microwave. Then your private facilities will be listed here. So you're going to have a double bed. There's parking included with this as well. And so it's 2 minutes to the local library, shops, bus stop, direct bus to Tala and the city centre. And again, down here, there's more contact information there. In terms of, you can add this plus button here. It'll put it on a list where you can shortlist properties and make an inquiry and note the inquiry. You can also hotlist the property. I'm just going to hotlist it there. So again, it just has a list of properties that you want to look at. But some of the best functionality within the platform is this view on map. So we're just going to open this up and it's going to open up this map feature. And this allows you to pick your TU Dublin campus, and then it'll give you estimated travel times from the accommodation to the property. So if we're talking about public transport from here, so it's 48 minutes from the home. And in fact, it'll give you the bus numbers as well. So it's a really useful feature, and you can also open up on Google Maps. And if you were to drive, if you have a car, it's 25 minutes to campus. So there's a drop down there for walking, cycling, public transport and driving. So then if we just look at the My Student Pad functionality, then so your hot list is here. So you'll see that I've hotlisted a couple of properties. So they're just all clearly laid out here. And then I can go ahead and make my inquiries from there. So it's just easy to keep everything together. And oh yes, property alerts. So then you can set up an alert for properties. And so you can put in your parameters again and create a new alert. And every day when something gets approved by myself and Patricia, new on the system, it'll send an alert to your email. So that means that you're ready to make contact with those landlords and hosts as soon as the property becomes available. There's also a message board in here as well. So you can accommodation tips, find a flatmate. You can set up a message board here as well. If you were perhaps thinking that you might like to get a group of students together and rent your own place, you can set up a message post there and connect with other students that way. Trish, I think I've covered everything there, have I? Have I forgotten?
Pauline, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
I'm going to
that's great.
stop sharing now and I'm going to take you back to the presentation.
Yeah, the filters are great,
Yeah.
They
And where are we? Oh. Okay, so in terms of making the most of StudentPad, so register. We will share these slides, so you'll be able to click the link. You won't have a student number yet. You can use 2526 as your student number. However, you'll receive an email from myself and Patricia asking you to verify your status, and you can just come back and let us know where you are in terms of your application. Hot list your properties to save for easy reference, make your inquiries and contact your homeowners, and map your property and check the proximity to campus. If you need any assistance with any of this, please contact us. We can arrange a Teams meeting with you to help you shortlist properties. That's just a recap within the slides, just so that you have it easy to hand when you are starting to look for your accommodation. So then key tips on contacting homeowners. So when reaching out to them, it's important that you read the advert carefully, make sure the property suits your needs. So if you're male and 7-day, you're searching for male, you're ensuring that it's an advert that's applicable for male 7-day accommodation and conversely female 7-day accommodation. Please be professional in your communication with the homeowners. So when initially reaching out to them, introduce yourself, mention your arrival date and how long you're expecting to stay. Is it a semester? Is it an academic year? Is it a full calendar year? Please be polite and timely in your responses. Remember, a good first impression can go a long way in securing accommodation. And just to note, we spend significant time and resources recruiting new landlords, and many offer accommodation below market rates to support you as students. So we do risk losing their goodwill if they're met with rude messages or flooded with unsuitable queries that don't match the requirements of the advertisement. So the second type of accommodation is purpose-built student accommodation. So this is privately operated housing dedicated for students. They offer really modern facilities, social spaces and on-site support. Unlike private rentals, PBSA is professionally managed and regulated and ensures your safety, the quality of your accommodation and also convenience. The advantages of PBSA is regulated and secure, so they're built to really strict standards with on-site management, secure entry and CCTV. You can book in advance. This is the only accommodation type that we recommend securing before your arrival in Dublin. And rooms do fill up really fast in this type of accommodation. They're convenient locations, so they're built to be close to all of the universities, but there are many of them very close to city campus, public transport and lots of amenities. The rent amounts are all inclusive and hassle-free, so the rent typically covers utilities, Wi-Fi and maintenance. It's a student community, so it has built-in social networks with events, study spaces and shared spaces. And it offers really flexible and community-based option, ideal for international students. So PBSA providers near TU Dublin. So we have partnered with Mazzino and we do have TU Dublin specific rooms with Mazzino. And this is really high quality accommodation with modern facilities. So 2 of them are exceptionally close to the Grange Gorman campus. One of them is literally at the entrance, and the other one, which is Brickworks, is very close to Angel Street. Other providers, Live Student, Here's Student Living, Canvas, and Hugo have a huge amount of student accommodation in TU Dublin. So why Mazzino? Again, it's just that it's really close and they offer really good lease terms, and the majority of their buildings are very new and built to a very high standard. So the costs, it's a premium product with a premium price attached. So the rents typically run from 250 to 400 euros, depending on the type of room. It includes your security, communal spaces, and the organised activities. Each facility has laundry, study spaces, cinema room, something else. I know it's gone. And they offer private or twin ensuite rooms, and you'll have a communal kitchen. Social support and events, so there'll be resident events. And then in terms of the lease terms, the contracts typically run from 41 to 51 weeks. However, we do have a small number of semester specific rooms in our TU Dublin allocation with Mazzino specifically. So Mazzino really is a great option, and the ability to kind of have a room booked before you arrive is the main selling point of it. So in terms of our exclusive access to the dedicated rooms, they're great locations, they're very secure and modern. However, rooms fill up really, really fast. So if you're considering PBSA, you can use the QR code on screen, or there will be a link put into chat, and that'll take you to the TU Dublin Mazzino specific website where you can look at the 3 properties, and it'll give you information on the costs and the different types of rooms, and you can reach out to the manager in your preferred location and let them know that you're interested in a TU Dublin specific room. If you're going to book with some of the other providers like Live or Yugo, we recommend that you visit their website, check their availability, their pricing. They all have really good virtual tours on their websites as well. Register your interest. Most of them will have an online booking form, and you will have to pay a deposit. Check if that is refundable or not. If you're moving forward into this type of accommodation, please review your contract carefully, understand the terms, policies, and the payment schedules there as well. And then make sure that you confirm your booking, pay your deposit, and receive your confirmation letter before you arrive in Dublin. So the third sector of accommodation is private rental accommodation. So private rentals in Dublin are in really high demand, and unfortunately the prices reflect that. So the average monthly rent in Dublin is an eye-watering €2,476. And this varies depending on your location, the property type, and also the amenities. Most leases run for 12 months, and they will require a deposit as well. So it's usually a month's rent up front. So if you're talking about a month's rent up front and your month's rent, you're talking about €5,000. So it is a considerable amount of money. So beyond that, you'll have to pay for your utilities. So your electricity, your internet, waste collection, they won't be included in the rental amount in most cases. So where are you going to find these rental properties? So the main platforms are daft.ie, rent.ie, and myhome.ie, where landlords list available properties, but competition is high, so be prepared to act quickly. In terms of tips, unfortunately, scams are especially common on social media sites for private rental accommodation. Please don't ever pay a deposit before viewing a property in person and confirming that the landlord or agent is legitimate. If a landlord reaches out to you first or unexpectedly, this is a major red flag. Please don't engage with them. If a deal seems too good to be true, so if you're seeing, a 3 or 4 bed property for €1,200, it's a major red flag again. So always verify the details before committing. And if you're unsure, get in contact with myself and Patricia, and we'll have a little look at it. So this is a self-managed option. It's just too broad for us to provide support for it. However, we do provide advice and guidance around it. So we have lots of resources on the private rental page. The QR code is there on screen. But just tips in terms of renting privately: always view before you pay over any money. Be scam savvy. Check the credentials of landlords. So we have an agency here in Ireland who look after this sector, and it is the RTB, and you can check to see if a landlord is registered on the RTB. The link is included on the resource page. Read your lease. If you're entering into one of these agreements, understand the deposit rules, rent terms, and notice periods before signing on the dotted line. If you are going to progress with this, or even host family digs accommodation, we strongly recommend that you book short-term accommodation before you arrive, and look for your own accommodation once you're here. It's much easier to secure a really nice place when you're here in person. So we're going to talk about the short-term accommodation now. So this gives you a safe place to stay when you arrive. It also gives you an address to go to when you arrive at the airport and to give to a taxi. In terms of the options for short-term stays, so the first one is hostels. There's lots of really budget-friendly hostels in Dublin, so it makes it a great option for you as an incoming student. And some popular choices are the Generator, which is in Smithfield, which is less than 10 minutes walk from the Grange Gorman campus. And then there's others like Jacob's Inn, which you can check Hostel World and Place places like that for reviews on good quality hostels. The second one is Airbnb. So if you want a little bit more privacy when you arrive, you could book a short-term apartment or stay while you search for your permanent accommodation when you're here. And then we have hotels and guest houses. So these can work great excuse me, for a few nights, but they're often quite expensive. So our tip is book early, especially if you're coming in August and September, which are busy tourism months, and there's high demand, but it'll give you a short-term base while you're here to meet landlords. So we've covered the different types of accommodation options. It's important to consider the overall cost of living when living in Dublin. So I'm going to take a look at some typical expenses now. Dublin is a capital city, and unfortunately, it is an expensive city. So budgeting is key to managing your student experience. So accommodation is going to be one of your biggest expenses. So we would say that 700 is conservative for accommodation. And obviously, as you've seen, depending on what type of accommodation you go for, that's going to increase. In terms of the cost of living here for groceries, transport and mobile phones, they're estimated and they cover the basics. However, you're going to have some additional expenses like health insurance, which is mandatory if you're a non-EU student, your clothing, course materials and social activities. In terms of some money saving tips, you can get a student leap card. So a leap card is a card that you can use to tap on and off. You preload it with money to all of the different all of the different transport options when you're here. You can get that from the Student Union at the Grange Gorman campus, and you can apply for it online as well. Shop in budget supermarkets like Aldi and Lidl to keep your grocery budget to a minimum. Take advantage. There's lots of deals on food and entertainment and fitness, although you'll have really good value fitness options in terms of the on-campus gym facilities. Plan and cook your own meals at home as well. That's a really good way to save money. Dublin is manageable, but you'll have to be really good with the budgeting. So please plan ahead. And this helps avoid any financial stress when you're here. Beyond that, there are other factors when choosing accommodation. So price, location, transport links, local amenities, these things all kind of play a key role in finding the right place to live. So we'll look at some of the things you might want to consider. So choosing the right area isn't just about the rent. So good transport links is going to make a huge difference in terms of how much time you're going to spend on transport. Amenities, depending on what you like to do in terms of your hobbies, you might want certain amenities to be in your locality. Costs, and then the overall feel of an area really will play a role in your student experience. In terms of transportation links, a well-connected area is going to make life easier, especially if you're trying to get in for a 9 a.m. lecture. And then, so you have public transport. So we have Lewis, Dublin Bus and Dart. They're the three main ones. I'm going to talk about those in more detail in a second. We really encourage you to cycle or to walk where possible. Look for good cycling lanes, secure bicycle storage at your accommodation, and also pedestrian-friendly routes around the city. In terms of local amenities, grocery stores, pharmacies, cafes, parks, they all improve your experience. Recreational areas like gyms and green spaces, student-friendly spots as well, where you can get student discounts on food and things like that. The area, whether you want somewhere with great nightlife or perhaps you want to live in a quieter residential place, it very much depends on your lifestyle. Housing costs, so the cost of rents will vary depending on what area of the city you're living in, and always compare the cost versus the convenience before committing. The ambience and safety, so you might want to live somewhere that feels more home-like, and others want to live in really bustling, busy city centre locations. It's whatever suits your personality. Your safety is important. Please research the area, check online, check reviews of any information you can find about a location, and talk to other students who've been here. Contact the Students' Union. They'll be able to offer some information in relation to that. It's best to visit the area during the day, but we would recommend maybe going back when it's a little bit darker as well. And it's just to get a feel for what it's like. So try to balance cost, convenience and comfort when looking for your accommodation. So the different transport options in Dublin were really well connected, and in fact it's improving all the time. So it makes it really easy to commute to campus, even between campuses. So you have public transport, cycling and walking. Where you live will impact your commute time and the cost of your commute, so please choose wisely. Always check the commute times either on the map feature on StudentPad or on Google Maps if you're looking at accommodation outside of StudentPad. And then we really encourage cycling. So if you're looking for an affordable bike, you can buy a good second-hand bike on some of the adverts like Facebook Marketplace at dundealeradverts.ie. So in terms of the options for transport, so the Lewis is our tram. So there are two lines, the green one, which serves City Campus, and then the red, which serves City Campus and Tala as well. It's really frequent, it's reliable, and it will connect you to key areas. We also have Dublin Bus, so this will cover all of the TU Dublin campuses, and you can use your student leave card for a 30% discount on fares, but the fares are quite reasonable on all of the transport options. The Dart is the train in the greater Dublin area, so it's useful if you're living in the coastal areas, and beyond that it's really useful if you want to go and visit the coast around Dublin on your time off and the weekends and evenings. And then Dublin's a really bike friendly city. There's plenty of dedicated cycle lanes. On the StudentPad platform, landlords will usually include whether they have secure bicycle storage, and then beyond that, walking if you possibly can. If you're within walking distance, you're going to have very minimal transport costs. So our top 5 tips for a successful accommodation search. So budget for your accommodation accordingly. So the minimum of 700 a month in terms of securing safe, legitimate housing. Anything significantly cheaper, check in with myself, Patricia, around that. Be realistic about the costs. Consider those additional expenses like utilities, transport and deposits. Be scam savvy. Unfortunately, the rental scams are common. Don't pay up front before you visit the property and verify the landlord. Be cautious of the listings with low rents, urgent requests for deposits, or landlords who refuse to meet you in person at the property either. Use trusted resources like StudentPad, the PBSA providers and aftonrent.ie. Please avoid social media listings as ourselves and our colleagues across the country in student accommodation unfortunately have had students who've found accommodation on Facebook and Instagram, and they've turned out to be scams more often than not. Book your short-term stays if you haven't booked PBSA accommodation. And then check your commute times. So this will save you money, time and stress in the long run. If you're considering cycling, look for the secure bicycle storage on StudentPad, and then use your student leave card to save even more money on Lewis and train fares. Be flexible, plan ahead and reach out if you need support. Okay, in terms of the supports available, so Patricia and I can assist you with any of your searches. We can do a call, we can do a Teams meeting. If you're here in Ireland, you can come in and you can meet us in person. If you have any questions at any stage, don't hesitate to get in touch. We're here to make your accommodation search as smooth as possible. Oh yeah, and this is just a final slide, just in terms of it's kind of all the links to everything I've talked about within the presentation. It's just for ease of access. That covers the accommodation section. I'm going to hand you back to Megan now, and she's going to wrap up briefly by exploring your travel options around Ireland, beyond Ireland and Europe. Again, we're well connected in terms of flights, and some of the best things to do in Dublin while you're here. And we'll take questions then at the end when Megan is finished. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Pauline.
Thanks so much, Pauline. And I think we'll all agree a great insight into all the different accommodation options you have here coming to Ireland. So I'll give you just a little bit of insight into living in Ireland and other things you might consider. And the chat function now is also open. So if you have any questions that haven't already been answered during the webinar, if you want to pop them in the chat, we will say just put any generalized questions. If you have any very specific questions or questions relating to your own personal circumstances, that you direct them via email or phone to Pauline and her team via email or phone, and we'll share those details again in the chat, those contact details. So, as Pauline mentioned at the very start, Ireland is the land of 1,000 welcomes. It's a very friendly country. There's always lots to do. So, some of the different things that you might consider while you're living and studying here are things such as traveling around Europe. So, given that Ireland is an island nation, we're very well connected to mainland Europe, so it gives you a great opportunity, especially if you're coming from a non-European country and you have your Schengen visa, to explore some other cities, especially on a quick city break. We have a lot of flights that go out of Dublin Airport on a Friday afternoon, Friday evening, and will come back on a Sunday evening, and they can be as cheap as €15 flying with low-cost airlines such as Ryanair. Great opportunity as well if you want to pop over to London. It's only about a half an hour flight out of Dublin straight into London City and explore there. Or lots of other nice city breaks, such as going to Spain or Portugal or France or Germany. So lots of options there, especially on maybe the study breaks when you have a bit more time and you want to spend a bit longer abroad. But even if you don't want to go as far as going abroad, Ireland in itself is a beautiful country with many beautiful landscapes to explore. Most famous and well known would be the Irish West Coast, which is known as the Wild Atlantic Way. So if you're able to drive, you can rent a car and you can travel the beautiful scenery. The roads go right along the coastline, so you can see the beautiful coast, the mountains, the fields. Ireland is a very green country with a lot of nature and a lot of land. So if you like hiking or you like sea swimming, there's lots of opportunities for that as well. And in fact, sea swimming, there's lots of spots around Dublin that are very well known for sea swimming that have their own meetup and clubs there as well. The 40-foot and the likes of the different strands. So you can do that as well in your free time. In Ireland as well, we have two of our own national sports that you may or may not be aware of. So we have Gaelic football and hurling. So whether you want to try something new and pick these up and try these, or whether you want to attend matches, there's lots of different activities that go on, especially in Grangegorman, where we have our own sports all-weather fields there. There's always lots of activity on those. And in Dublin, we have two main stadium arenas. So we have the Aviva and we have Croke Park, which also host a lot of national and international sporting events. So if you're interested, anyone interested in American football, they'll be hosting one of the first American football league games here in Ireland coming up soon as well. So lots of different activities there. And then if maybe sport or outdoor adventuring isn't your thing, have no fear. We have lots of other different activities you can do. If you're into history, we have a lot of very historical sites and right on your doorstep in Dublin. So one of our most famous being the Book of Kells, which is housed in the Trinity Library. You can also visit St. Patrick's Cathedral, which is the tallest church in Ireland. We have the Guinness Storehouse for anyone who wants to try the traditional drink, and it's a great visitor experience. You get to go see how the Guinness is made. You get a free pint of Guinness in the Sky Lounge and get to see the views across Dublin City. So it's well worth doing the experience. And we also have the Phoenix Park, which is one of the largest parks in Europe. You can hire bikes. The zoo is based in the Phoenix Park as well, if you want to go and see the animals. The President's House, the Áras an Uachtaráin, is based there, and they do free tours on a Saturday as well around that. We have Christchurch and Dublinia and many other different historical and tourist sites to see. And it's always worth checking for all of these sites as well. Most of them will offer a student discount on tickets on production of your student ID cards. So always keep an eye out for special student rates at any of these activities. But most important as well, you also can sample some traditional Irish food. And in Dublin, you will never be short of somewhere to go for something to eat or something to drink, as there's many different traditional Irish pubs and restaurants based right across Dublin. So it's a perfect opportunity to try and sample some local food. But Dublin also has a very international food scene as well, with lots of different international restaurants. So if you're looking for a taste of home, there's something for everybody available in Dublin as well. So we really do hope that you will consider coming to TU Dublin and coming to study in Ireland. We will share the recording of this webinar and all of the resources that have been spoken about today and that have been placed in the chat. We will also share all those, so all those useful links and useful contact details. I'm just checking there now in the chat. I don't see any particular questions coming in, so hopefully that means we have answered all your questions and queries here already today, which is great to see. And as I say, those useful resources are great to have. But we'll just give it a few more moments if anybody wants to pop any questions in the chat there that they would like to ask. We also, as I said, have members of our admissions team there in the background as well for support. So we'll just give it a moment and see. I think Pauline or Patricia, do you have any of like the frequently asked questions that students might ask that maybe we haven't thought of today?
No, I kind of think we've covered everything. I suppose the thing to say, we probably haven't mentioned, is we don't have our own on-campus accommodation. So that's why we're heavily reliant on PBSAs and also studentpad as well. But again, Dublin is really, really well connected. So you don't necessarily have to live very close to campus. You can live a little bit further out and the commute can be very manageable.
I know for most of our Irish students, they would tend to commute quite a lot. It would be more unusual for our Irish students to move up for accommodation. So it is very achievable. I myself lived outside of Dublin while I was studying and commuted in. So I can confirm from first-hand personal experience, it is manageable. And you can get a lot of coursework done on the train when you have to commute as well.
The train is especially useful if you're trying to do some work. There's a question on visa requirements. Do they need accommodation certificate and how do you get it? I think in terms of the visa, I think you have 90 days from when you arrive from memory, but I'm not 100% sure on that. What's the best time to come to Ireland and book accommodation as an international student? Unless you're booking PBSA accommodation, which is heavily regulated, I would suggest that you arrive a few days before the start of your program so that you're here for your orientation. Arrive those few days early, either book one of the short-term accommodations, so the hostels or guest houses or Airbnb, and then look for your accommodation when you're here. You can shortlist them before you arrive here so you can get access to studentpad. That won't be a problem. And you can shortlist properties, arrive, settle yourself, for a day when you get here, and then make arrangements to go rent and view the properties. And at that point, we would suggest that you engage in the negotiations and sign your lease or your host family agreement from there. But please don't try to book accommodation from abroad and hand over deposits. Most deposits for private rentals, you're talking about €2,500. Please don't hand over your hard-earned money before you arrive.
I see there's another one there. If public transport goes on strike, what do students do? I will say in Ireland, it's not something we ever really have an issue with. The only times where there might be an issue with public transport is our Luas, which is our light rail that goes through Dublin Centre. Sometimes if there's any sort of incident on the track, it can sometimes be down. But in that case, the Dublin bus do honour the Luas travel ticket. So there is the option then just to move and take the bus for the remainder of your journey. So it wouldn't be something that you would have to be concerned with. There is those alternative options.
In terms of the bank account, so do you need an Irish bank account? If you're a European student, no, you don't. Your European bank account will work for you. If you're an international student arriving or a European student and you want to set up your own bank account, we have information on that included on the International Student Portal and also on the financial wellbeing pages within TU Dublin. Is it common to ask to meet the host family by web chat to see if you're a good fit? You can do that. Again, we would recommend that you meet in person, maybe again, shortlist maybe 3 or 4 properties that you're interested in, connect with the host, let them know when you're arriving, and at that point make arrangements to go and meet them in person. So see the area, check out the transport links, how, you know, in terms of getting there, and meet the family in person. Anybody else have any questions? Again, anybody who has a question that they want to ask myself and Patricia privately, it's studentaccommodation@tudublin.ie. You'll get us at that email address.
Brilliant. Well, I think if
Great.
we've no further questions then at the moment, I think we'll close this session. And as we said, we will share the recording and those resources, and you're more than welcome to reach out to Pauline and Patricia and their team for any support and queries. So thank you everybody for joining with us today, and we wish you all the best on your future studies and welcoming you to Ireland in the future. So
Great.
thank you everybody for
Thanks,
today,
everyone.
and
Thank
have a
you.
lovely afternoon.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Pauline.